Two Guys, One Take. I'm Noah, and that is Turner. And Turner, the Pistons have won their first playoff game since the first Obama administration. How do you feel?
Um, feel great. It was actually a good fucking game. Uh, None of the other games were good, so I'm glad this one was good, especially it being their first playoff one. But oh wait, it was a long time. We were, I was seven, you were seven. I don't think we remember watching the Pistons play.
I don't remember a lot of '07, '08. I don't remember being locked into the Pistons.
Were you still in Chicago in '08?
I was still in Illinois. I was in southern Illinois,
Fire.
closer to St. Louis, and I was not locked into the Pistons at all. I really only cared about LeBron
Yes,
because I was a child. So, but
that was the year for it.
looking back at that team, though, interesting squad. I think they would maybe be a 12 seed in today's NBA, but
I don't know if they'd
fuck
make
it.
the play-in, which is crazy because the Heat made the play-in and they have a losing record.
Yeah, the league is different now.
The
But
league
The
is
Cade revenge game to get them their first win, I was excited.
Yes, that was a good game. It was a very good game. Um, and I mean, Kenny Atkinson, he might be kind of hurting. I don't know if he's going to get Coach of the Year. He's got the favorite odds, but
JB.
after that one, who
It is
knows?
kind of crazy that Bickerstaff and Atkinson, like Bickerstaff got fired from the Cavs, goes and he's a Coach of the Year finalist, and then Atkinson, who took over for him, is also Coach of the Year finalist.
I mean, they lost 28 straight last year.
Yeah,
That's fucking wild. And you're beating the Knicks in the playoffs at MSG?
yeah. I
Crazy.
I think it's. I wonder if Monty Williams, last year's Detroit coach, is watching these games and like confused because I don't think he ever watched any of the Pistons roster prior to taking the coaching job. I think he just showed up and was like, "Who are these guys?"
Yeah.
And then he just sucked for a year and left. But like I feel like he's watching and he's like, "Oh, okay. So Cade is like a playmaker. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that."
Most underrated player in the league, voted on by the players,
As he should be. Yeah, I mean, I think
as
the
he should
Pistons
be.
will be obviously after a successful year be on TV a lot more next year, like national TV, and so people will be able to actually check in on him a bit more. I love him. I love Duran. I like all their kind of like their young core and Beef Stew. Big
Beef
fan.
stew. Beef fucking stew. Oh, and Dennis Schroder also calling game for no reason.
When he shot that, I thought there was a 2% chance it was going in, and it went right in.
Yeah, he did, dude. I think it surprised him. Like he didn't even celebrate or anything. He just backpedaled.
Nope, backpedal right back
He's
into it.
just
Yeah.
used to playing defense. Well, yeah, there's a bunch of other games, but we can probably go back on those this weekend since we got the big one tomorrow.
Draft.
Draft. A lot of people antsy for it. I don't. It's gonna be a weird one. Like I feel like a lot of the other drafts were pretty clear cut with who's taking who, but I think there's a lot of like unspoken kind of swaps and picks in this draft, especially being deep, not
Yeah.
only quarterbacks but running backs and low key wide receivers too.
And just a weird draft. I mean, I'm a huge draft guy. I'm like a big draft nerd. That's kind of my favorite thing. So I'm super excited for tomorrow. Weird draft though, because the best players are at non-premium positions like tight end, running back, like offensive line. There are really good pass rushers, which is a premium position. But I think that's why there's such a weird feeling going into it. Is like typically there's like some tackles that have no questions about them. That's not the case this year. So it's definitely a weird year for especially having a high pick. It's a strange year.
I agree. But going on that, since you're like specialist analyst in the
Rapid
draft here,
fire.
who do you like in the top 10? Who do you think is going to be put into a team system and they're going to make the biggest immediate impact?
In the top 10, I think It's not going to be Cam Ward, not because he's not good, but I just think he's going into a tough situation with a second year coach and a team with a lot of holes. So skipping the quarterback that's going to go early because he's going to make an impact just by being the quarterback. I'm going to go chalk and I'm going to say Travis Hunter, but only because I feel like I am the only person in America that still thinks he's going to play both sides and be awesome at both. And I think the Browns are going to let him. I think they're going to take him at two. I think they're going to let him play both sides. I think he's going to play pretty much full time corner, and I think he's going to play a lot more receiver. Like I see people saying it'll be 10 to 20 snaps or something like that. I think he's going to play like more than half the game at wide receiver as well and be awesome at that too. I feel like everybody kind of agreed on that early, but then now as the process has gone, they're like, oh, well, that's too hard. But like nobody does that. What did we hear about Otani when he was coming over? Pitchers don't have time to worry about hitting. It's too much time. Hitting is too hard, and they don't have time. They can't do both. Pitching is just as hard on the other end. He needs to study who he's going to go against in terms of hitters. But then he was just like, "Well, fuck you. I'm just going to do both, and I'm going to be good at both." Like, so I'm not saying like that Travis Hunter is that level of prospect, but I think he's the closest thing we've ever had to it. And I know people say injury risk and he needs to study on both sides of the ball. I think he's going to do both, and I think he's going to make an impact on both sides. And at the very least, I think he's going to make an impact as a corner in his first year and be the best corner in the draft. So with the top 10, I think he's going to make the quickest immediate impact, and it's going to be obvious watching the Browns.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you with the corners. Like, there's not very many good corners in this draft. Besides, who is it?
It's him and
Will.
Will Johnson and
Yeah,
Jahdae
well,
Barron, but
yeah,
Will Johnson's he's more of like a zone corner.
yeah.
So
And he won't, I mean, he won't do a 40. That's a
which
big red
is
flag.
yeah, and people at the at Michigan are saying it would probably be like a 4 or 5, which is
Yeah,
like
it's tough.
I don't love that.
Yeah. But the whole Travis Hunter being a Steelers fan, and I wouldn't mind playing him twice a year, especially because I think he's going to get the Browns like bad luck. Whether that be I don't want to put an injury on anyone, but playing 100 plus snaps a game would be absolutely a fucking nightmare. And I could see the Browns definitely doing that, like putting him in that kind of a situation like immediately and then him getting hurt. Um, or he just plays and he's absolutely god awful. I could also see that happening, or if something super weird out of nowhere happened where that someone trades up for him and he's good on a different team and the Browns are fucking still terrible. So I think he's a good player. I think being in the Browns organization is going to be a little bit weird for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think he's one of the better DBs in the draft. I don't know about wide receiver. I've seen a lot of weird things that analysts are saying about how people or teams would prefer him at wide receiver, which is weird over DB. So I don't know.
I think people are pretty split on that. I think there's some teams that think he's a clear-cut DB and then some that think he's a receiver. I think he would be a good at either one he dedicated his time to if he doesn't do both. I also think I think he'd be a better corner, but I think he'd be a really good receiver too. And receivers make a little bit more money if they're elite. So that could be an incentive for him to like maybe push for receiver more. But that is the injury thing with his body type, and he's already had some injuries. That's the main argument against what I'm saying that he can do both. And the one thing you have to watch out for if you're the Browns. But I feel like I'm just going to stay on that island. I think he's going to do both, and I think he's going to be good at both. So
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, outside the top 10, who do you like?
outside the top 10, kind of my guy that I've started to like a lot in terms of it's a deep pass rush class. That's how you say that. Um, and there's guys at the top like that have some issues in terms of some of the off the field stuff that I think are really good, like Mike Green. He's going to go outside the top 10. I think Shamar Stewart's going to end up going in the top 10, but my guy that I think is probably going to go outside the top 10 that I think is going to be a guy that we look at and we're like, how did he not go higher is Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. If you
Yes.
watch Ezraku, I mean, he's at Boston College, so nobody's really up early at watching Boston BC games. Um, but if you watch him, he's huge. He's 6'3", like 250, and he's got all the pass rush moves that you'd be looking for in terms of coming off the edge. He's not a guy that's only a speed rush guy, only power, or only a finesse guy. He kind of does a little bit of everything. I think he's going to have to like hone in and figure out what he's best at. But he's got the chop into the offensive lineman's arms down. You can't extend on him. I think he just does things that look. When I watch him, I'm like, that's a guy that's going to be like a double digit sack guy on Sundays if he stays healthy and he really works at it. So I like him a lot. He screams to me that he's going to be falling and then he's going to end up as a Raven, which I know like would suck for you as a Steelers fan, but like he's just one of those guys where I'm watching him and I'm like teams are going to talk themselves out of him for he's for different reasons. I think teams overthink it sometimes and he just screams to me like all of a sudden he makes it to the Ravens somehow and they're like how did this guy fall in our lap? And then he's got 10 sacks like
Yeah.
immediately.
I feel like the Ravens are always a team that gets a guy like that too.
Yes, so I like him a lot, and then I think Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan both two defensive tackle guys. I think Nolan's starting to come up. Like there's some rumors that the Niners could take him at 11, so like just barely outside the top 10. But I like Nolan. I think he's super disruptive, and then I also like Kenneth Grant. But I think the big thing with Grant and why he's falling, he's from Michigan. He's huge. He's 6'4", 330. He's gigantic, but he's awesome against the run and he's shown some pass rush like ability, but he clearly like takes plays off like if you watch Michigan games and he doesn't have a really super high motor, so he'll have to prove that he's like all about getting better. But those Kenneth Grant from Michigan, Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, and Ezraku from BC are like my kind of outside the top 10 guys that I think looking back we're going to be like why didn't they go in the top 10.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to remember. Um, you said speaking on the chop block, or not the chop
Mhm.
block, the chop on the offensive linemen. But there's been an offensive lineman that's going to go top 10 that everyone's talking about. We're talking about his length. Does he
Yep.
have the length to do it?
Will Campbell. Yeah, I feel bad for the Patriots. I actually don't because I mean, they had 20 years of like perfection, so I don't feel bad for the Patriots. But if they were a different team, I would feel bad for them sitting at number four in what looks like a three-player draft in terms of like the elite guys at premium positions. They're gonna probably miss out on Abdul Carter. They're gonna probably miss out on Travis Hunter, and they don't need Cam Ward, but they could if they had that first pick, they could trade out for somebody that does need Cam Ward. So they're and then they have a huge need at tackle, and this draft doesn't provide that like stellar tackle. I think Will Campbell was supposed to be that, but he is a little smaller in terms of arm length. I know there's some people that say it doesn't matter, some people that swear by it does matter. I think it matters enough to talk about it and to second guess it when you're picking him at four. And the fact that he is supposed to be a tackle, but it seems like the league thinks he's going to be a plug and play guard. Like you don't even if he ends up being a like a 10-time Pro Bowl guard and he's like your left guard for 10 years, whatever it is, you don't want to take that's not like the goal at 4 overall. So they're just in a rough position where nobody wants to trade into that pick because there's no reason to.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to be pigeonholed to take Campbell because he is, the most safe tackle, I guess. But I think he's going to end up being a guard. I think he's going to be an awesome guard, and we're going to think he's great. He's probably going to be a Pro Bowler, like I said. But it's going to be one of those things where we look back and we're like, at 4 overall, though, I don't know. But it's too early for Membu, who I think will end up being an actual, tackle. And he plays right tackle, and they need a left tackle. So it's like the Patriots are just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with this pick. Even if Campbell's awesome, like let's say Jalen Walker goes next pick and he's awesome, it's going to be like obviously a pass rusher is or like an outside linebacker like that is better positioned to be taking at 4 overall. So they're just in a tough spot
Yeah.
for need in this draft. But I like Campbell as a guard. I think he's going to be like an awesome guard. So we'll see.
Like it's so weird. The like perfect measurement for it is like 33 inches, and his was like 32 and I don't know something.
Yeah,
And I
it's
forgot who they were
yeah,
comparing him to. It was like Lane Johnson had the same measurement, so it's like, why is this? Why are we
yeah.
still making this such a big deal?
He could end up being, somebody like Lane Johnson. That would be awesome. I mean, that'd be a home run, obviously. But
Oh yeah,
Lane is also like kind of a psychopath. He like plays through everything. He's just
yeah,
different.
yeah. I
So
agree.
yeah, they have to have the right guys to coach him up at that point, which Vrabel is going to bring in a good staff. So if he
I'm
ends up being a
hyped.
tackle and he's awesome, I would rather that be the case because I don't want a guy to be taken at 4, have an awesome career, and everybody's still kind of like, but took you at 4 and you're a guard, like really? I'd rather him be
Yeah,
awesome. So
yeah. No, I'm hyped for Vrabel as a coach, and I mean Drake May. It's gonna be
yeah,
weird. I mean, yeah, in all reality, I think it's gonna be a good pick just because they need offensive linemen. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be weird, but I think
After,
it's
yeah.
not the worst pick in my opinion.
After 3, it gets weird. I think everybody will understand why they're taking Campbell, but I think everybody will also say, damn, you really don't want to be drafting for need at 4. So it's like they kind of have to, and the league seems like they kind of know that they have to, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. I agree. Oh, well, speaking within the top four, do you think the Giants pass on Abdul Carter?
I think when we talked on Sunday, I said it seemed like they might because there was the Shadour workout and it seemed like the owners were getting involved, but that has really cooled down. It like pretty much since we put out that pod, it's cooled down
Yeah.
basically. Like from the moment that came out, it cooled down, and it seemed pretty hot at first, like that was going to be the case. So I think it's starting to become clear that the common sense, like the people that are actually watching these guys, are saying like, "Hey, we can't pass on Carter at 3." And you can always like it seems like Shador is going to drop. So at this point, it's like if you like Shador and you're split in the room, go with Carter early, and then you can trade back into the first round and go get him. I mean, I think the Steelers are going to be open for business. I think the Seahawks will be open for business at 18 to move back. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that would be willing to move back to allow somebody else to take Shador if they like him. So if the Giants like Shador, I think they can kind of have their cake and eat it too. Take Carter at 3 and then just wait and see how the board falls, and trade back into the first round. You have to give up some capital for it, but I think that sets them up the best they can. And then, it gives them probably the most fun QB room. If that's the case, they trade back in, and then your QB room is Russ, Jameis, and Shador.
Hmm.
That's the most hilarious QB room maybe
You
ever.
get everything.
You get a little bit of everything. You get some Jameis, some good, just,
Everyone loves Jameis.
authentic Jameis. You get the most inauthentic
Russ.
quarterback of all time, Russell Wilson. You can pretty much, I know his response to everything before they even start interviewing him. I know exactly what he's about to say. And I'm sure, and that's been ingrained in him. I like that he was wearing sunglasses inside at MSG, for the
He's
win that they
built
had.
so weird. He's built so weird.
Yeah,
He's built
he's
like a. You see him like practice, you're like, damn, he's kind of big, and then you like look him in on the field, he's like, damn, he's
he's
really
kind of
small.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Shador coming in with everything that kind of comes with that. He's got a big personality. I think that would be a hilarious quarterback room.
Yeah.
But I don't think they pass on Carter now with kind of the new information that's coming out. It seems like it's going to be exactly what people think at the top: Cam,
Hmm.
Travis, and then Carter. So
And then it's kind of the field after.
then it's like that's when it's just a kind of a crapshoot. Like, I mean, I don't know if we had a section for this talking about Genty, but I have started to think that I think I mentioned this as like a maybe on the last pod, but I think Genty is gonna. I think the Jags are gonna take him at 5.
Yeah. That seems to be the big. Because who's. Because they were going to take that one tackle from Michigan, right?
They were going to take Graham, the
Yeah,
defensive
Graham.
tackle. Yeah, Mason Graham. That's like who everybody is mocking them, but it's like they just brought in an offensive coach, Liam Cohen. Their ownership is in the business of like entertainment. I think they see him as like the most entertaining option.
Hmm.
And I think they want to run the ball a little bit more to kind of help out Trevor Lawrence. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a good pick, but I'm starting to think that they're going to take him at 5. Um,
I know we
so
talked about like the running back room and like I don't know with Etienne having a terrible year and Bigsby like he's going into second year. Like it'll be weird, but um, I think their defense is definitely in a good spot. I think they would need help more in like safety defensive back area. So taking another D tackle, especially when you have Josh Allen Hines on the line already, like I don't know.
Yeah, I think Graham would be like the more it would be the better pick for like what they actually like long term, and it'd be better for Genty to go to a better situation than the Jags, but I get why they would take Genty because if you see him as a generational back and you think that your window is the next 5 to 6 years to compete in the AFC, which I don't see it that way, but if they see it that way, then that's where it makes sense. If you can get 6 awesome years out of Genty, then I mean, go for it. But I'm starting to think he's going to go five.
Yeah, I think putting Genty with the Jags instead of the Raiders would be definitely a better plug and play kind of guy. Because I feel like with the Raiders, it's kind of like you need to build up everything else and kind of just shoving Genty in there and giving him like 20 plus carries a game. And then like probably the same situation where he's getting shipped off like Josh Jacobs. I know we talked about it last episode, but I don't know. I think more of being a Genty fan, I'd rather see him go to the Jags instead of the Raiders. I know a lot of our friends would hate that, but I think,
I would like
yeah,
it better for the Raiders if Genty got taken before them and they didn't even have the option to take him at six. I would like it better for the Raiders because then they can take a guy like Jalen Walker or Mason Graham. They need help on both sides of the ball in the trenches. They could take, if they like Membu, if they think he's a really good tackle, they could take him. They could trade back for, like if somebody else really wants Genty or somebody they don't think they can get later, they can trade back. But I think it puts them in a better position to move to not take Genty even if he is available. But especially if he gets taken before them, I think that just opens them up to be like, okay, cool, we can take a guy on defense now, like Mason Graham, or if you like Jalen Walker better or one of the other pass rushers. I just like that better for them.
yeah. And going back to the Shador Sanders thing, when you said I think they should definitely swap picks, like especially with the Steelers. I mean, you could get your guy and you could get Shiloh or not Shiloh, Shador,
Shiloh.
because the Steelers don't have a second round pick.
Yep.
Like if they get their second rounder, which they're probably just going to get a skill player or a D tackle, because I don't know how long TJ Watt has, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It'll be weird. Definitely be weird. But going to the tight ends. I know you had a lot to say about tight ends. I saw two tight ends that I liked last year in college football, but Tyler Warren and Colton Loveland. Um, do you have any other tight ends that you think could produce the same caliber they could?
Yes. First of all, I mean Warren is on a different level, but Loveland is like pretty. Some teams, if you like listen to people that really are like locked into this, some teams think Loveland's a better pro.
Yeah.
I think Warren is like George Kittle 2.0. I think he's a sure thing. So interested to see where he goes if he stays in the top 10. And then Loveland, it seems like everybody thinks he's just going to be a Colt in
Yeah.
14, which I like the fit. So,
I also
um,
like the fit. As long as someone can throw him the ball.
yep, exactly. But the guy that I think could surprise people, if anybody's locked into the draft, they're going to know this guy, but he's probably not going to go until third round, fourth round, maybe. But
Mm,
Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green
mm,
University. He's a junior from Ohio. He's huge. He is 6'3", 245, big guy.
goddamn.
He broke like every record you could possibly break at Bowling Green, obviously. He broke a couple of records in their conference. Um, he ran a pretty good time for a tight end. He ran a 4.7 at the
Jesus
combine.
Christ.
He's a really good athlete. He set FBS records in 2024. Listen to this: 117 catches, 1,555 yards from a tight end. He ate up Penn State when Bowling Green played them, and it was a close game. He ate them up. He was awesome in that game. So he's not like a blocking tight end or anything like that. He's more of a take the top off the defense, like a vertical threat guy. But he reminds me of Jimmy Graham, but like a little faster. Like I don't think he's going to be that, but he's really good. And you probably won't hear his name called until like the third round. But Harold Fannin Jr. is a name to remember. If your team takes him like late and they need a new pass catcher or a weapon, I think he could kind of come onto the scene and be like an immediate producer.
Oh, I like that. Um, Other pass catchers, the wide receivers. I know there's a couple that are on everyone's radar. Abuka T-Mac, Luther Burden, and then Golden. Um, we know T-Mac's definitely going to go
The
probably
earliest,
to the boys.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know about the other ones. I know Golden's supposed to go late, right? Like in the first round.
Golden is probably like the number two on most people's boards behind T Mac, but he's higher on some. If you prefer like speed, he ran a 4.2 4.29 at the combine, so
It's crazy.
that's pretty insane. But like what's cool about Golden is that he ran that time, but he also like knows how to play receiver. Like sometimes the guys that run that time, it's like, oh, that's awesome. I'm really happy that guy's fast. Maybe we could teach him how to play receiver. And then he'd be good, and they go in the first round, and then you never hear from him again. Like John Ross is a
Yeah.
good example of that. Um,
But then you have like the other side where a team like the Chiefs gets Xavier Worthy, and he's like
yep.
one of their best producers,
But,
especially
but
with Rashid being hurt.
but Worthy's a good example of like he wasn't a very good like actual receiver coming out of
Yeah.
Texas, and they kind of turned him into that because they have good offensive coaches. Whereas Golden, he doesn't necessarily need to go to a situation like that to do good. I think he already knows how to play receiver really well,
Yeah.
along with that speed. So I like Golden, and I like that a team is probably going to get him like in the teens or in the early 20s. T Mac, I'm not as big of a T Mac guy. He's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like he contested catches, he's great. But he's kind of big and slow. He doesn't necessarily have like a mentality of like I'm gonna go block at all or like I'm gonna be really involved in this play that I'm not really a huge part of. Takes plays off for sure, but he was also out there like 100% of the time, so I don't want to ding him too much for that. And he was on a bad team where he was like basically the only guy on that team that was any good at U of A last year. But
Which is crazy because the year before they were pretty decent, huh?
they were, and then when their coach left, a lot of guys left, basically except for T Mac and the quarterback Noah Fafita. They stayed, but everybody else left.
Mm.
So they were just kind of decimated by the transfer portal. But yeah, it seems like T Mac. Everybody seems to have him going to the Cowboys. I can understand why. He's a good compliment to him. I think his ceiling would be like Drake London, but I don't know if he's ever going to actually hit that. Um, he's kind of like a Plaxico Burress, like a possession receiver, just a big target. Um, so we'll see with T Mac, but I really like Burden. I know Burden has like the most question marks out of any of those guys. Like Abuka is like the safest. He's going to just be a number two. He's like a prototypical number two, perfect for that. Burden, makes me a little nervous just because of some of the character issues, and then a lot of his catches are like behind the line of scrimmage. He has some route issues, but I think he's super smooth whenever he does get to go run vertically, and I think Missouri wasn't that good at quarterback this year, especially because their starter was hurt for part of the season, especially in SEC play. So I know he disappeared a little bit, but like production wise, but I think like watching him, he's special when he gets the ball in his hands. So I think late first, early second, somebody is going to get lucky with him. It's going to depend on where he goes. But like if he was to go to a team like the Chiefs, like Andy Reid is going to have some awesome things drawn up for him. So I think it depends on where he goes. But I like Burden maybe the most out of any of them. I think Golden is my number one, but Burden is pretty close behind him.
I have to agree. Hmm. Well, covered that part, but what about the Seahawks?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
also
nervous.
nervous. I think I'm nervous in different ways, but I would also be nervous for you.
I'm nervous. If I had to guess based on what we usually do, I would guess we're going to be looking to trade back. And if we can't do that, we're going to take best available depending on how the board goes. We're not going to force something for need, which means I know everybody mocks a lineman, like an offensive lineman for us, but unless that's clearly the best player available, I am just here to tell everybody that is not what they're going to do because that's the biggest need, but Sean Schneider does not like subscribe to drafting for need in the first round almost ever, unless the best player available lines up with the need, and I don't think it will in this situation. Like I think if a guy like Jihad Campbell falls, or any of the DBs, if he really likes any of them and they fall, or any of the really good pass rushers, just name one. If they fall, that's who he's going to take, just from like a principle standpoint. But I do think he's going to be looking to trade out. I would like us to take, one of the interior linemen, whether it's Gray Zabel or Tyler Booker. But I don't think that's going to happen unless it's super clear that that's the only way to go. Or if we trade back and then it's like we kind of make ourselves do that later in the first. But that's what I'm always nervous for a Seahawks draft because I never know what to expect. We're a little bit weird with our draft. So
Um, yeah, I definitely think defensive guy for you guys would fit in perfectly, especially with you being a defensive minded head coach.
yeah.
Yeah, just fitting in the system, I think would be a little bit better, but should
Like
be an interesting year for you
if
guys.
Campbell from Alabama falls, I know people have been complaining about that, like in the Seahawks fan, Twitter and stuff like that, or X. I'd be fine with that because he'd fit in
Yeah,
fine, and then we can hopefully get a guard next round, like Tate Ratledge from Georgia or something.
yeah.
But the thing is, the Steelers though are in a power position now. Let's switch over to that. I mean, they could hold all the power at 21. If Shadour falls, they could be the trade back team.
I'm really hoping to do that just because I really don't want to deal with fucking Shador Sanders all year. And like, have you seen the tweet of like he's a terrible person and all of these like coaches and everything have been like, yeah, he calls out his teammates, blames everything on them. And like,
Oh my
I just
god,
think about all the toxic players that have been through the Steelers, and I'm like, can we just get one season without him? Like, we already have Kenny Pickett, or not Kenny Pickett, George Pickens,
George
and
Pickens.
now we have DK. So it's like, who the
Yeah,
fuck is gonna hold them together? Um,
that
but
poor wide
just
receiver coach
yeah,
doing
seriously,
God's work.
fucking. But our previous first round picks, I mean, have been fucking god awful. Like they always are terrible. Like last year, Fautanu, like season-ending injury, a couple weeks into camp. I mean, obviously we got Kenny 2 years ago, and then Broderick Jones, who averages 5 holding
Yeah,
penalties in the fucking red zone a game. Um, and then like even before that, Najee, he's gone. Devin Bush, Devin Bush, he's not good.
I remember
Terrell
Devin Bush.
Edmonds, we gave him to the Bills and he came back. Like Artie Burns, I don't even know where Artie Burns is.
Artie
And
Burns
then
was a Seahawks guy as well for a little
yeah,
while.
and then Bud Dupree. Don't know where Bud Dupree is either. Um, but I'm just hoping they don't get Shador because
Yeah,
it's gonna be another one of those years. Like I could see them getting Shador and we're fucking god awful and get a good draft pick next year, and then maybe getting another skill guy or I don't know another person to replace TJ or Cam Ward because they're or not Cam Ward, Cameron Hayward because
yeah.
they're both on their way out. So I'm hoping that they leverage something that they can get a good enough defensive player where it can pretty much learn from either Cam or TJ. And also
Yeah.
the whole TJ thing is scaring me too because I don't know if he's going to be a Steeler next year. And I don't know. There's a lot of shit's going to happen, but Omar Khan, he's a fucking guy. The con artist. He always comes through, but never in the draft for some reason.
Not in the first round, at least.
Yeah, that is one
Because
thing. The Steelers are great past the first round.
second and third round, fourth round, that's where you guys found like Juju. He was great. You guys have had
And
found receivers.
Jalen.
Yep. You guys find people late that end up being good.
Yeah,
Um,
so
but first round for some reason is the mistake. And then we
I
could
think we just get scared.
get Mike
The,
Tomlin's
the
like,
limelight. We
I'm
just can't
scared.
take it. I would
Somebody
say I'm scared.
somebody take the camera off me. I'm scared. We can end it here. I did see that just to kind of add to the intrigue of the Steelers at 21. If Shador's there, are they going to trade out or are they going to take him? Did you see Shadour on Max Crosby's podcast?
I didn't.
Crosby asked him who his top quarterbacks are, like right now, and he gave like an answer, and then he was like, "All right, now give me one more." And Shadour said, "Um, whoever's throwing to DK and pick next year, I think that guy will be pretty good."
Dude, I can't. I would hate that so much.
So that might have been the leak that we were all looking for. I don't know, but we
I'm
can
really, I was really hoping they would just get Hampton. Just get another
Amari.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we have the weirdest fucking backfield ever. Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren. Dude.
throw Amari in there, and now you're really interesting. Um, well, shit, we can end draft talk there. We will be back on Sunday though with some draft reaction,
I mean,
NBA
playoffs.
playoffs. I've been kind of locked into hockey playoffs, so I'll have like maybe 5 minutes of thoughts.
Yeah, I would say you can talk hockey.
I've
I've
got like
been,
5 minutes of thoughts. I've been tweeting hockey. I'm locked into the Minnesota Wild. Don't ask me why, but
I
we can
love it.
talk a little hockey as well on Sunday. But we'll be back then.
Yep. And Zuck gave us the gram. So follow us on the gram.
Mark,
Follow us on
thank you.
X. We're on
Subscribe.
Spotify and we're on
Subscribe on
YouTube.
there, subscribe on YouTube, follow on X, and thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. Follow the Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, go Yankees. All right, bye.
Later.